Good afternoon. Happy Wednesday, and welcome back to MLB Swing for the Fences here on September 11th. Talking some baseball with Travis Mangone. 8-game slate, and I think a pretty good one. You might even call it, I think, Mangone, in the words of yours, or not yours truly, you, an elite pitching slate. I think we might have on our hands on this one. So I think the pitching is pretty clear, and in offense, I think you could go a number of different directions. So quick overview of the slate. Over to you, Mangone. How you doing on this Wednesday afternoon?
Yeah, it's it's that time of the week, baseball. Nothing going on Wednesday and Tuesday football wise. So we dive into baseball in September, which I was excited to watch the Mets a little bit today, and then I don't know, they were just basically getting no hit because they're doing well in the wild card race. I'm trying to root them home, and when you basically are getting a no-hitter thrown on you from Mr. Bowden Francis, it's not going well. So not a great start to the baseball day for me, but hopefully we can turn around, have a good end of the day with some baseball. And then back to football tomorrow. We get a banger, Bills and Dolphins.
They definitely did a good job, the NFL did, with the primetime games early on here in the season. Most of these are pretty awesome, Bills and Dolphins.
Yeah, you're not ready for this. Did you know week 3, there's 2 Monday Night Football games. I think, all right, maybe it's this week. Let me just double check. It's either this week or next, but we have, I think, like the next either week 2 and week 3 or week 3 and week 4. It's 2 Monday Night Football games, both of them, like the next 2 nights. And then week 7, we have 2 Monday Night Football games, like out of nowhere. I don't understand why. So we got some back-to-backers, so that'll be a lot of fun. And even some of them are like 45 minutes apart, where who knows, maybe we'll have like red zone going on during it. So it's going to be going to be interesting.
Big fan of the double Monday night games. Give me as many slates as possible, and that kind of even extends it out further. So I'm all about it. Obviously, yeah. Into football season, I gotta say, week 1 football for me wasn't great. Man, how'd your week 1 end up going?
It went. I think.
Well, I know you were on the Lawrence train with me, and that was the second half made me want to jump off a bridge, but
yeah, it went fine because I think cash games, betting, and tournaments, all together, I made money. So I'll take it. I did not rake in money in the tournament street, so it is what it is. But overall, I profited, so I can't complain between bets and all the cash game stuff I do, and so it worked out well. But we want to win those GPPs, so hopefully I can get a better sweat next week.
Yeah, we'll be back on the up to lock for football on Sunday with JT and AP, and I gotta be more locked into what I'm playing coming into the show, because I'll admit I was scrambling a little bit too much during the 4-man hour up to lock, and didn't end up being my best week DFS wise. So we'll get back to it week 2, and hopefully with better results. For now, though, it is baseball day here on this Wednesday. No football. Is there any even college football, or is it just straight up only? What else is there? WNBA maybe?
Maybe Caitlin Clark is hitting the hardwood tonight. I don't really know. We don't get the MAC football and stuff like that till later on. We might get some random you get some random college Thursday night football slates where it's 2 games of some shitty teams, but no one's paying attention because NFL's on. People pay attention to the college football when it's on a Tuesday or Wednesday. So nothing really going on.
Yeah, baseball, it is 3-game WNBA slate, as our guy B Nair tells us. I'm going to be skipping that one tonight. No WNBA for me, so it will be just baseball. And with that, let's get into this 8-game slate. We do start out in New York, in the Bronx. Yankees and Royals. Pretty good pitching matchup here. Cole Ragans, who's been fantastic for the Royals all year long, will take the bump against the Yankees. Obviously, tough matchup for him, but he's certainly overcome plenty of tough matchups along the way this year. And then Luis Gil's been really kind of all over the place. A lot of dominant outings, also some pretty disappointing ones. Just 3 starts ago, 1.6 fantasy points against the White Sox of all teams. So there's no denying the talents there for Luis Gil. It's been that way all year long. Not the worst matchup here for him against the Royals. I do think you could make the case for Luis Gil. There are other pitchers I like better, including actually Reagan's in this game. If I'm going to one of the two, I think I like Reagan's a little bit better. And then, of course, especially the Yankees big bats led by Aaron Judge. I think Giancarlo Stanton a decent play here. And I don't think I'm going to end up on many Royals. So weirdly, I like Reagan's and the Yankees bats best in this game. Obviously, not going to play them in the same lineup or anything like that. But yeah, my brief synopsis on Yankees and Royals. What about you, man? What do you see here?
Yeah, this game's fine. Like it's in play because, like you said earlier, it's an elite pitching slate, right? Like, so you are gonna have to like play some bats, I think, or at least consider some bats against some like tougher matchups. I mean, Luis Gil can have walk problems at time. We saw him blow up against the Orioles once, where RPS had a big day. I mean, I think the Royals could do it. They're going to be basically under-owned. I don't think it's the craziest slate to take a shot on them, but I'm with you more on, I think you can play Reagan's and I think you play the Yankees bats. Like that's the spot to really look to target, I think, on this slate more so. Look at the price tags on these Yankees. Obviously, we have some expensive tags. If you look, Aaron Judge, 6.8, Juan Soto, 6.5K, but they do have salary relief amongst their lineup with Gleyber Torres at the top at 3.8K. He'll definitely be a popular option and a cash game type of play. Get Trevino in there at the bottom of the order as the catcher, not Austin Wells. And Verdugo will probably pop a little bit as a value, but the problem with Verdugo is like you want to play those big bats, right? Like don't play a Yankee stack if it doesn't have, a couple of those guys in there between Jazz, Soto, and Judge. So overall, the Yankees are definitely in the conversation today. Don't sleep on the Royals in tournaments, though. I don't think the Royals should get completely overlooked today in this stadium. So you get Tommy Pham, Bobby Witt, Perez, Melendez, 3.3K as a value. Like those guys are just going to be under-owned. So I'm not going to completely ignore the Royals. I think in tournaments, I'm going to be maybe a little more overweight on them than I am the Yankees, just because we got to make some like hard plays today, I think, when it comes to the bats. So I'm going to consider them.
I don't mind that golf. We've seen, Luis Gil's been bad in 2 of his last 3 outings. Pretty good hitting weather here in Yankee Stadium in the 70s with some humidity. And yeah, nobody can play the Royals. So it looks like they're going to be, 4 to 5% owned, which is pretty low, frankly, for a good lineup and a good place to hit on a 8-game slate. So I get it with the Royals. I do think if I played them, I probably prefer the full stack against Luis Gil and just kind of hope he doesn't have it. Obviously, you get leverage with the low-owned team, and then also if the full stack goes out, you probably won't have to face the good arms out of the Yankee pen. So it makes a lot of sense there.
And they have value in their lineup, DC, right? Like another thing too is like if it's a really good pitching slate, which it is, like you need to find value bats throughout your lineup. Like it's just going to be hard to make it work. So that's another reason why too. Like value is just going to be, it's going to be important on this slate.
Yeah, and then like I said, full stack with the Royals. Yankees are, I think, much better plays for one-offs in this game. Judge, Stanton, of course, Soto. But really the right-handed power, Judge and Stanton, the 2 that I'd be most likely to use against Cole Reagans. I don't think I'd go for the full stack. Just too expensive with the Yankees against such a good pitcher, in my opinion, in Cole Reagans there. Let's get to Baltimore and Boston. Another big series. A lot of big series going on right now. We've got Dean Kramer going for the Orioles. He's been fine this year. Has had some pretty good starts in 2 of his last 4 outings. You certainly can attack him, though, with left-handed bats, which obviously is clearly the strength of this Red Sox lineup. Duran, Devers, Abreu up top there, I think all makes sense. O'Neill's been swinging a good bat from the right side, of course. Yoshida, Casas. It's a good lineup to attack Dean Kramer, of course. Weather not ideal here. It's going to be in the 60s, cooling down a little bit on the East Coast right now, so ball won't be flying quite as much as usual at Fenway, but still decent place to hit overall in Fenway Park. And then Nick Pivetta going for Boston, coming off a mediocre outing against the White Sox. He's had a good season too, high strikeout guy. I don't think this is the spot for Nick Pivetta. I think there's a few pitchers who are more appealing. You will probably get an ownership discount on him, but I don't think I'm going to be taking that ownership discount myself with Nick Pivetta. So I think Red Sox bats are the best way to approach this game. I don't hate Orioles one-offs. Gunnar, Santander would be the top of my list against Nick Pivetta, who does give up still, despite pitching well, quite a lot of power to left-handed bats. Could throw Mullins in there. Maybe that top three if you wanted to do it. Henderson, Mullins, Santander. It's expensive, but I do think it has a lot of upside at least. Over to you, Mango. Your thoughts here on Baltimore and Boston.
Yeah, I mean, this is a spot, no pitchers, right? Like, I don't think any of the pitchers are a good idea on this slate. I will pass on them. When it comes to the hitters, like, I agree with you. Boston's a good stack, right? Boston and Baltimore, naturally on this slate, if we don't like the pitchers and it's a good pitching slate, they're just going to be in play. My take would be, I think I want to be higher on Baltimore than I want to be on Boston. The reason why is it looks like if you pull up Saberson, look at their ownership, I think these offenses are closer than the ownership is like currently saying. They have
I agree with that. Yep.
Like it seems like the way it's going to come out is like Boston's going to be either like collectively, Boston's going to be 2 times or 3 times higher ownership percentage wise than Baltimore. And because of that, I just think it's a closer gap than that. And I'd rather take my chances on this Baltimore offense a little bit. Now, if you look at the lineup, Duran's getting expensive at $6K. Devers 5.7. There's value with Abreu in the 3-hole. Yoshida, he's got some value at 3.9K. So they have some value in their lineup in Boston. Baltimore's a little bit different. They do not have a ton of value, and the only values are Rivera at the bottom and Slater at 3K. The rest of the guys are all 4K and above it. I think that's reflected in the projected ownership a little bit. So yes, they're going to be hard to get into your lineups, but that's why they are going to be a little bit lower owned. So overall, I think I like Baltimore slightly more if I'm like talking MME formats, but this is a game for just the bats and the bats only. I mean, it's in Boston. We talked about how when we get to September, it gets a lot cooler in some places. Yes, it's 70 degrees there, but it's definitely worth targeting. Pivetta and Kramer can definitely get blown up. So overall, I want exposure to this game.
I think important note here on the Red Sox bullpen, only one lefty in the pen for them, and it's Brendan Bernardino, who has pitched in each of the last 2 nights and 4 of the last 5 nights. So maybe available in this game, I guess, would be that they do not want to use him here. And that's a big deal when you're looking at this Orioles lineup because they do a lot of pinch hitting, obviously, in the thick of the pennant race here. But I think more safety than usual for Mullins, Cowser, Jackson Holiday. So, and Ryan O'Hearn as well. So, I think if you're going to Orioles, that's certainly not something to be overlooked. And also, I mean, it's just a pretty bad bullpen from Boston in general. So I do think if the Red Sox, or if the Orioles rather, can do some damage to Pivetta, which, again, like our guy Crew in the chat says, he's a roller coaster. There's always a chance he can blow up. So I think I'm with you, Mangon. I think Baltimore may be a really strong, they're expensive, but a really strong contrarian option on this slate. Going to try to get, I think, a full Baltimore stack on one of my 5 lineups here.
I mean, when you do the full Baltimore, DC, like, understand, like, run the optimizer if you're someone that uses one, or I know you like to hand build a little bit more, but like when you run it, like, look and see what pitchers you're getting with it to see like what the math is on it. Because what you might notice is, like, let's say that you really want to play like someone like Blake Snell today. Well, like, maybe you just can't get Blake Snell with it. And that's the whole point. Like Blake Snell, even though he maybe has a 25-point game, well, if you need the Baltimore bats, that doesn't matter. Like, so that's something that I like to look at when I use an optimizer. I run stuff and I say, like, if I play this offense, like, does it ever correlate with having one of these top pitchers? Because if it, doesn't, then maybe I'm making that bet on the different type of contrarian build, or maybe there's like a way to get at least one of them in there. So that's something to think about when building out your lineups, because I do want good pitchers today. I don't want to just full punt and just take some absolute clowns. I want to try to get them in there, but if I can't get a Blake Snell, that's okay. As long as I can get at least one of them and then just take maybe one shot on a cheap option, I'm okay with that.
Yep. And don't want to overlook the Red Sox bats either, but they're just going to be much chalkier, it looks like, than Baltimore. So I think that is a pretty good pivot on this particular slate. Minnesota and the LA Angels up next. 2 rookie pitchers here. Zebby Matthews going for the Twins. has been a rough ride for him overall. The the season-long numbers look brutal. Now, a lot of the damage did come in that one horrible game against the Blue Jays. 10 hits in 2 innings. Didn't even walk a batter in that one, but 9 earned runs. He hasn't been too bad outside of that. Has had generally some pretty tough matchups, really low strikeout teams overall that he's faced. And I am kind of a believer still. I know it's been a rough first 5 starts overall for Zebby Matthews. I still think this is a talented pitcher. He was very, very dominant in the minor leagues before getting the call up. And I think there's some big outings coming for Zebby Matthews here. Not without risk, for sure. But he does get this Angels team. He's at home, big favorite. Angels have actually one of the lower team totals of the entire slate, sitting right around 3.5. Part of that is because of the Twins' elite bullpen, but I think Matthews is going to pitch well here. He's very cheap at 5,800, like we said, and I'm with you, Mango. Mostly I want to spend on pitching today. I'll make the exception for Zebby Matthews, who is going to be in at least one, maybe a couple of my lineups. Looks like he'll get some ownership. Sabres got him between 10 and 15% rather, right around 12% at the moment. So Matthews is my favorite cheap pitcher on this slate, frankly, by a decent margin. So, in on Matthews, not in on the Angels' Jack Kuchanovitz. He's actually pitched better overall than Matthews, but little doubt, in my mind at least, who's the actual better pitcher. Obviously, much tougher matchup for Kuchanovitz here as well. And I like the Twins. Went off last night. They're coming on strong right now with the bats. Some of these youngsters, Wallner and Larnach in particular, showing a lot of power. I don't know if you saw. I get the two mixed up. They're both like giant lefties with a ton of power, but one of them just hit an absolute nuke yesterday. I like those guys getting some pinch hit risk there for sure, but I think it's worth it given how much power potential they provide. Over to you, Mangone, Angels and Twins here.
Yeah. So I actually don't think the Jack, whatever his name is, Jack Kuchanowicz plays the craziest, just because he was a guy that when he first came up, I know we talked a little bit about him and you could take chances. Maybe he just need to come up and, rework his stuff a little bit. I agree. Matthews over him, right? I think for sure Matthews over him. But if I was MMEing, I wouldn't ignore Jack Kuchanowicz, right? You're not going to take much to even get even with the field or overweight at all. I wouldn't play 40% Matthews and then play none of Jack, right? That's just all I'm getting at. It's more a DK thing. I'm going to be MMEing FanDuel today. I'm not going to be, loading up on Matthews on FanDuel or anything like that. But on DK, yes, I agree. I think this is a way to get exposure to value. So I do like Matthews more. Matthews, I think, is definitely in the conversation. And you're right. The matchup's good against the Angels. The Angels haven't been an absolute turnstile. They've at least guys like Zach Neto have been pretty good and Taylor Ward. So, but I think at his price, and if you want to get the big bats in, he's worth considering. So Matthews is definitely my favorite option. I'm not playing the Twins, I don't think. I'm assuming Twins are chalk, and let's just double check to make sure. I have the wrong filter on here. Let's see. Yeah, they're very chalky. I don't want to say I won't play them on FanDuel because that's not the case, but on DK I wouldn't, just because I think their ownership's too high for me. So, and I'm playing less lineups on DK than FanDuel. So, but overall, I think the Twins, you know me, I just fade them. Twins and Braves, I fade. I've been doing it all year. I'm not going to sit here in September and just change my stance. Maybe it's wrong, DC, but I'm not playing the Twins.
It's all good. You can play as you choose, Mango. But I'll disagree a little bit. I do like the Twins bats quite a bit. Matthews, cheapest pitcher on FanDuel, 6,100 over there. Hadn't looked at that much yet so far, but it all just kind of depends on can you spend the money on this slate? I think you can, right? Yankees and Dodgers are on the slate, Orioles, LA De La Cruz. So might play a little Zebby Matthews over on the duel tonight. We'll see. That's Angels and Twins. Nolan Shanuel, I think, is the best. Him and Matt Tice at catcher, I think, are the two best Angels to play against Zebby Matthews if you do want to go in that direction. St. Louis and the Cincinnati Reds are up next. This one in St. Louis should be fairly modest weather here, around 80 degrees. No real winds or humidity or anything like that. So just a normal weather game, not going to impact the game too much. We've got Brandon Williamson, lefty for the Reds, going to pitch here. He's looked okay. Came back from injury or minor leagues, not sure which, honestly, in early September. Has made 2 appearances around 60, 65 pitches in each. Has, like I said, pitched okay. I don't think he's in play here at 6K against the Cardinals. And then on the other side, Lance Lynn going for the Cardinals has not pitched in the big league since July 30th. So he's been off about a month and a half through 80 pitches, I guess, in his one rehab start. He's been okay this year, Lynn, but he still is a pitcher I want to target against, especially coming off the IL. I kind of like this Reds team to do some damage against Lance Lynn. So they're another one of the, I think, sneakier stacks. I think they're going to be low today. Ellie De La Cruz, one of my favorite bats on this slate, came through for me yesterday. And, I'm going back to him here and some of his Reds teammates as well. And go on your thoughts on Lynn, Williamson, Reds, and Cardinals.
Yeah, I mean, the Reds, I agree with you. Like, if Lance Lynn wasn't off the IL, I probably wouldn't care to take a shot. I will say, like, ownership looks like it's higher than I would like. Like, I was kind of hoping to get them, like, absolutely unowned.
Kind of surprised they have.
Yeah. Because, like, I want to like them. I just feel like they're just so boom bust. Like, you know how it is. Like, if you're like 3 innings through and they haven't gotten a run, you're like, okay, like, this feels awful. Like, it's just, you know how the Reds are. I won't play the Cardinals. I'll say that. Like, the Cardinals, sure. Williamson, like, I get it. Like, you could target him. You could take a power 1-off. I won't complain about a power 1-off. Like, if you wanted like a Nolan Arenado, like, yeah, that would be perfectly fine. I noticed Paul Goldschmidt's finally back in the 3-hole. I can't remember when that happened, but I don't see myself playing like Paul Goldschmidt and many of these guys. Like, maybe a Jordan Walker in the outfield, either a Baker or a Wynn, but like, this is not a full stack. It's mainly 1-offs or minis. And then I would say, like, the Reds are in play. I know I'm not giving a rousing endorsement here, but like, I don't want to completely just cut them off. I think they're obviously going to be like team like 6 or 5 on the slate, right? They're not going to be like 1 or 2 or 3.
Well, what is the thing? Sabres got them at 4.3 runs compared to like 3.7 in the betting market. So Sabres with me, they like the Reds more than the betting market does. So I guess.
Yeah, I think the key though, DC, and like, I think the key is you're just targeting a pitcher that like is off the IL and maybe just doesn't have his stuff, right? Like, that's all you're doing. You're hoping that you just get a bad
not pitching for much. I mean, why would Lance Lynn give a shit? I don't know. I could just see him pumping his fastball in there and hoping for the best, which is kind of what he normally does anyway. But
yeah, I don't know if 84 is enough for him to sweat like a pig out there, but let's hope. You know, I'm hoping he is sweating and not enjoying it and just wants to leave. But and like, it's not like the Cardinals are in anything. You know what I mean? Like, they're not fighting for anything.
Right. Yeah, it gives us some steals as well. Reds obviously have speed, especially at the top of the order and really throughout the order. So I do like the Reds quite a bit here. I'm kind of surprised, like you, that they're going to get, around 10% ownership, but I still think they're a decent play against Lance Lynn, who I do think is certainly capable of coming out and just looking terrible, right? It wouldn't shock me whatsoever. So I do think that the Reds got to be in play. We're both sounds like pretty lukewarm on the Cardinals bats. Not terrible plays by any means, but not something to plug into your lineup first thing you do. Oakland and Houston up next. Going to have a popular pitcher here in Hunter Brown, who has had a really awesome season for the Astros after a rough start to the year. Of course, gets an awesome matchup here against the A's, who have had some big games along the way. Have also had a lot of games where the starting pitcher against them is putting up big numbers, and I think we could see one of those tonight, like Hunter Brown, quite a bit. I think it's close up top between Brown, Snell, and Michael King. Those three, I do think, are the best 3 spend-ups. I'd put Reagan's 4th, and then, like I said, Zebby Matthews is a cheap guy I like. But in on Brown here. Don't think I'm going to end up on many A's. And then Joey Estes going for Oakland, not in play in my eyes. Has been way worse away from home, pitching in Houston here. And worse against lefties, too. Jordan Alvarez, I think, is the prime target, but I do like this Astros stack as a whole overall as well. Your thoughts here, Mango, in Houston and Oakland?
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely not like the worst play on the slate. I just have like more conviction on some of like the earlier offenses that we talked about and rather kind of take chances on them. Obviously, again, Houston, like Alvarez, he'll be owned. Great play. They have value throughout their lineup if you need it. I assume Ben Gamble's a pinch. Is he a pinch hit risk? And is it a good stolen base spot?
Definitely a pinch hit risk. I think an average stolen base spot. Don't
Okay.
love it, honestly.
That's just like when I look at these stacks and whenever I see Ben Gamble, I'm like, this guy's likely getting 2 at bats unless it's an elite stolen base spot. Like he's someone I would stay away from. I'm not stacking him, but just like think about how you play this lineup a little bit here, just because I think there's some issues with the Ben Gamble stuff. But other than that, obviously it's a good stack if you want to play it. I likely just won't. I'll likely go to some other offenses that I just think are better on DK. Like I said, the Royals I think are in play. Is like a better contrarian stack than I just don't want to like on these slates when we have like really good pitching. I just don't like to play like the obvious offenses. I like to get a little bit more off the board. I just think it's kind of the right way to go. So, but yeah, if you like the Astros, I wouldn't talk you off it. I'll talk you off the Twins, DC. I hate that offense, but I won't talk you off the Astros.
Well, you tried. It didn't work. I'm still on the Twins. But yeah, like I said, I think the Astros are good, but mostly I just want Jordan Alvarez in my lineup here. He's clearly in the best spot. John Singleton, I think, a pretty good value play at 2,800 at first base. But yeah, definitely Jordan, the primary target. Where did you say where you rank Hunter Brown between King and Snell, who I do think are pretty clearly the best 3 options if you take ownership and pricing out of the equation.
Yeah, I mean it's a good conversation because like doesn't feel like any of them have holes in this spot. I mean Hunter Brown obviously is a good one. Michael King, I get him in Seattle, and then Blake Snell. Now his issue is he gets to play against Milwaukee, but he's just been so elite. I'm gonna rank it King, Brown, and I'm gonna put Snell last. And I get it. Snell's really good, but it's just that Brewers matchup is just so tough, man. Like I get it. Blake Snell's been good. I'm not saying I'm going to play that Brewers offense, but that's how I'd rank them. I mean, just Seattle is just that elite spot that you want to get to. And I said this, Hunter Brown and Arrighetti, like they're guys I've wanted to slam like to end the year. Like I just want to keep riding the train out. And
yeah,
if it beats me, it beats me. So that's why I rank Snell third, sadly.
I do think Snell has the highest upside among the 3, but I also think he's pretty clearly the riskiest.
Yes.
We've seen it a couple times, even in a dominant run overall. Snell has had his hiccups, including last time out.
And ownership's going to be close, DC. There's none of those pitchers like look like they're just going to be number one. The only argument I think you could make is the guy that maybe gets the most ownership will be whoever's just projected the highest on most sites. And I'm assuming Snell, when you just think about projections and how they work, I think it'll be Snell.
I mean, Sabres got them all pretty close in projection. They're obviously similarly priced, and SaberSim also has them pretty close in ownership, all 3 between 30 and 38%. So it really does kind of come down to personal preference, more or less a wash with the pricing and the ownership and the projection. So I think it's really close. I'm kind of viewing them as interchangeable, and whoever fits, with the bats on any individual team, I'm honestly fine going that way. I know that's kind of a lukewarm take, but it is how I feel about the situation. So, yeah, it's kind of a summary of those pitchers. Let's talk a little bit, though, more about them as we get to the West Coast games here. Michael King, again, who we both have right on our top 3 there, along with, seems like the field will. It's been awesome for San Diego. We love targeting pitchers in Seattle. And, yeah, I mean, Michael King, no reason to think really anything other than a big outing coming for him here. And then Brian Wu going for Seattle. He's been really, really good at home. He's been really good when he's stayed healthy. I just don't think this is a spot for Brian Wu or the slate for it. with a very, very contact-heavy Padres team. So good place to pitch. Listen, Wu, I do think he's capable of, and I honestly expect him to have a pretty solid game. I just don't think he's got the strikeout upside to compete with Snells and Kings and who's that third guy? The third pitcher escapes my mind at the moment. But anyway, Wu is fine. I just don't think he's going to make the cut for me on my 5 teams. What are you doing with this one, man? Going Seattle and San Diego.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the biggest Wu fan. I'll say that. And like, if you had to pick a matchup for him, I know he's in Seattle and that's great and all, but if you had to pick a matchup for Wu, like this ain't it, right? Like this has got to be like bottom 5 worst matchup, I'd say, because it's a team that doesn't strike out. And like he eats on the strikeouts. He needs it. You know, it can be kind of messy at times. Like this is a team that I think you can get real messy with. And you know, as crazy as it sounds, DC, I'm not someone that loves playing bats in Seattle, but the way the Padres are playing baseball, I would not ignore them in tournaments. They will be absolutely unowned. Brian Wu has issues with walks at times, right? And that's the guys that we want to target. I don't think it's crazy on this slate. So Padre stack, we'll see if I get much of them. I'll make some adjustments when I get off the show, but I don't think they're absolutely crazy. I'll ask you this because you're definitely better at seeing this. Do you see anything in the numbers that like makes this an interesting take? And again, I know this is not the ballpark to target. Like even if they get 8 runs, like getting 4 or 5 runs with home runs is probably worth more value than getting 8 runs that are like singles. But do you see anything in the numbers where this could make any sense on this type of slate?
Yeah, I mean, he's given up a lot more power to lefties overall, which is for the most part the strength of the Padres team. So, that's a plus for them. It's not like it's much of a park downgrade for the Padres who playing one of the worst hitters parks anyway, so they don't have to deal with that. It's not like going from Fenway to Seattle. So yeah, I considered them as well. They didn't quite make the cut for me, the Padres, but I don't mind it. I mean, and talking about low-owned teams, I assume nobody's going to play the Padres here. I can look up the ownership quickly. Yeah, I mean, Sabres got them all pretty much all sub 1%. Yeah, got to be a good play. I know Wu's a good pitcher, but problem is Wu just he doesn't walk anybody, and it's hard to hit home runs there. So it's like they really are probably going to have to string together a bunch of hits to get the job done. But Padres are good at that. That's the strength of their team, or one of the strengths of their team. So I don't hate the Padres. I don't think I'll probably get there on one of my 5 lineups, but I'm with you. I do think they are in consideration. If I was playing more lineups or 150, certainly I would be well over the field on 1%, right?
Yeah. The argument I would make though is I know he doesn't walk a lot of guys, but when his command's off, he's just absolutely screwed, right? And I mean, you can maybe make that argument for any pitcher, but I just know when his command's bad, it's bad, right? And it's just that. Then it's just an absolute just hitting fest for the other team. So we're just betting for that performance, I guess. And I don't know, but I get your point. Maybe he's gotten better with the walks than I've realized over the past years or so. But I don't know. I'm going to take a chance on it. I'll at least have 1 or 2 of the Padres to take a shot on it.
I think there's only 3 late games, but if your team does suck early, you pick the wrong pitcher or something, swap into an unknown team like the Padres, instead of the Dodgers, could be enough to keep you alive. Something like that, I think, is a good way to play it. Maybe on the late slate, and maybe
baseball news. James Paxton retired, so I got to roster him in his last game before retirement. So there you go.
I assume that didn't go well if he's retiring after.
He got hurt in that game. It was the live final when he he probably just suffered some injury and he was like, I'm done with this shit. Wait.
It was in the live final. That was his last game. Yeah,
it was the live final. It was against the Astros.
You played Paxton in the live final?
No, I played the team against him. I played the Astros. Okay. Yeah. So I meant rostering guys against him.
Yeah. Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
I would. Yeah, if I would not be rostering James Paxton at the live final.
Yeah. All right, that's Seattle and San Diego. Both of us. I think that San Diego stack is a little bit interesting. Let's get to Milwaukee and San Francisco here. This one in San Francisco, of course, going to be friendly pitching weather here. Blake Snell, we've talked about him quite a bit as we've gone through this slate. Has had some huge outings, some disappointing ones as well, including last time out against Arizona. Only made it through one inning in that game. Couple of walks. There was a passed ball and a third strike that reached, I think, an error. Only one earned run, but he threw 42 pitches, and the Giants coaching staff decided not to send him back out, which you sometimes see. They just don't want pitchers throwing too many pitches in one inning. A little weird that he got through it and they didn't send him back out anyway, but I don't take too much from that. I do expect him to be back to his normal self. Like you mentioned, it's certainly not a perfect matchup against the Brewers, who are, pesky, I think would be a fair way to put the Brewers. We do know Sell is going to be among the highest owned pitchers on the slate, maybe number one overall. I think that's fair. Like I said, I do think he's a little riskier than King and Hunter Brown, but I do think he has the most upside. So I will certainly have at least a share of Snell, maybe two on my 5 lineups. And then Colin Rea, I actually think is one of the, I don't want to say sneaky before I check the ownership. Yeah, sneaky. Sabres got him at 3% owned on this slate. It's pitched well for the Brewers for the most part, coming off a couple of mediocre outings. I just like picking on this Giants team right now. A lot of strikeouts in that lineup. It's obviously a good place to pitch in general in San Francisco. Rea's big problem is giving up power to lefties, but this is like the hardest part for lefties in baseball. And the Giants don't really have. I mean, Yastrzemski and Conforto and Lamont Wade and Brett Wisely. Like, these guys aren't very scary bats in general. So really low on Colin Rea, decent price at 7,800. I think he's got a good shot at 20 plus here. So he is in the player pool for me. What about you, man? What are you doing with Milwaukee and San Francisco?
Yeah, I liked Rhea a little bit, but you're kind of selling me more, especially with the home run stuff. Like, one home run stat I saw, and I know this doesn't have to do with this game, but it just shows how home runs matter with the parks we're talking about. Like Aaron Judge, if you put him in, the Kansas City park and you put Bobby Witt in the Yankees ballpark, and again, I know Aaron Judge is a better home run hitter. I get it. Don't rip me in the chat too much, but they would both have 38 home runs. That's like a couple days ago. And point is, like, it matters what park you're in for home runs. And if Colin Rea is one of his issues is the home run problem, he's in San Francisco. This is a great spot for someone like Colin Rea at 7.8K, especially if we're looking at offenses that might be expensive and we might need one spend down option. Like, if you need a guy that's in the mid tier, a little bit cheaper, Colin Rea at 7.8 has to be in the conversation for me. Like I said, I'm not trying to play a bunch of dust ball pitchers, but I need to embrace some guys in the mid tier and in the cheap options. And Rea has to be one of them for me for a lot of the reasons you said. And the Giants are going to be a team that we target all throughout the season. Like, if JT Hayes was pitching there tomorrow against the Giants at 4K, I would consider JT Hayes. I know he'd be in the conversation. So overall, like the Colin Rea call, I've said this on pretty much every show, and it's worked out sometimes. Like, if the Brewers are playing the highest owned pitcher on the slate, and it's someone that could be volatile, like a Blake Snell, the Brewers are in the conversation. I know the ballpark sucks. That's one thing I don't like, but they've done it all year long. It's crazy what this Brewers team has been doing. So if you told me you were playing the Brewers today, DC, and you had a splash of them, I wouldn't call you a moron. I'll say that. I probably won't end up doing it, but I just don't think you're crazy if you're thinking about doing it.
Yeah, I'm in on Rea here. Yes, I did have my core up early. No Jeffers, giving out the goods to the people. Corey Rao, come on, now. Keep it behind the paywall with the DC core. But I will have to change that. We'll do so, of course. But trying to host a show here, so we'll get to the core after the show. After we talk about the last game on the slate, of course, we'll do stats and pitching and all that good stuff to end it. After we're done talking about Dodgers and Chicago Cubs, this one in LA, cooling down a little bit there, so the ball won't be flying quite as well. It's going to be Bobby Miller going for the Dodgers. Talented pitcher, having a very, very rough year. Has been a little bit better in these last 3 starts. There's sometimes some signs of life from Bobby Miller, but still, I just don't have much confidence in him. Don't think I can go there. I don't think I'm going to get to the Cubs either, but I did see some questions about them in the chat. I don't think they're the craziest play. Just not going to make the cut for me. Cubs will go with the lefty rec specs wearer Jordan Wicks. I think a pretty mediocre arm, and it's got to put the Dodgers in play. So I do think the Dodgers, they're expensive and, but all that, but obviously have tremendous amount of upside from slate to slate. Overall, though, probably not going to have a whole ton of this game in my own lineups. What about you, Mangone? What are you doing with Dodgers and Cubs to wrap this slate up?
Yeah, I guess I'll ask you this because you're good at this stuff. Is Bobby Miller still trash? Like, have we seen anything to change otherwise, or what?
So I'm not sure he was ever like really trash. He still had his like elite stuff, but
okay,
he's a tough one to figure out. I do think he is. I think you could play him at 7,300. I don't know if that's the side you're leaning. I would lean more toward a Cubs stack against him. I think that's probably where you're looking at.
Yeah, I was leaning more just like I think the Cubs aren't crazy today, right? They've been hitting the ball a lot better. I know they've had like a rough summer, but the lineup is way better than it used to be, right? Hap, like this is a projected one. Hap, Swanson, Suzuki, Bellinger, Paredes, Bush, Nico Horner, Pete Crow Armstrong, who's a young guy that's playing a lot better and is a speedster, and Miguel Amaya. So 9 total. I just don't think it would be like the craziest thing. Again, I'm trying to like find some different stacks today and get a little bit different. So I don't think it's a bad idea. And of the teams that have like, a high total today, which, I think it was Twins, Astros, Red Sox, like, not Yankees, Dodgers are in that conversation too. I like the Dodgers. I talked about the two that I'm not going to be as high on, and that's the Astros and Twins. And, if it beats me, it beats me. But Dodgers, I will. I actually think they're worth taking shots on here. So I think they're in play. They have some value throughout their lineup. I know Tommy Edman's been hitting the ball really well. I think he had 2 home runs last night, I think I saw, which is pretty crazy for Tommy Edman.
Yeah.
But Ohtani, Betts, Freeman, Teoscar, Will Smith, and then they'll have value with some other guys in the lineup with Edman likely and Kike Hernandez against the lefty. So I'm in on the Dodgers. I think they're a good play.
Yeah, hard to argue with that one with you on the Dodgers. Let's get to the good stuff here at the end of the show. We'll start with stacks, Mangone, your favorite stack overall and your favorite contrarian stack.
Yeah, favorite overall stack. Let's see. I think overall we're gonna go with. I want to see if I don't want to get this wrong. We'll go with the Dodgers overall. I think they're the best overall stack on the board. It's between them and the Red Sox, but definitely the best overall. The low owned stack, we're gonna go with Baltimore. The other thing, I did like the Padres a bit. Like, and I'm certainly gonna have some, but I think that Baltimore stack, the one thing I liked about it a lot too, and I'm sure the Padres stack does this a little bit, is man, it gives you a different type of build. I am still gonna get at least one good like starting pitcher in there. It's probably gonna force me to punt down for one of my pitchers, but I like this Baltimore stack. They're gonna be my contrarian one.
Love it. I like Baltimore as well. Got one of my 5 teams locked in with the 5-man Baltimore there. I will go my overall favorite stack with your favorite team, the Minnesota Twins. I think they're going to do some damage to this Angels pitching staff. And contrarian, I will go with the Reds. Looks like they will have some ownership, but nothing crazy. And I think I really do like them against Lance Lynn. I think they close enough to qualifying for the contrarian stack. Let's get to pitching, Mangone. Who do you think is going to be your most important pitcher on this slate?
All right. And speaking of my favorite team, the Mets, they were getting no hit. They came back. They're up 6-1. So, that's you love to see it. Hopefully they can make the playoffs and make my October a little more fun. Most important pitcher. It's probably Michael King. I mean, I've been a Michael King guy all year. It's just such a good spot against Seattle. So it'll probably just be Michael King.
Yeah, I like King as well. Talked about Snell and Hunter Brown. I'll have plenty of those guys, but it does look like, as I'm kind of building out my 5 lineups here while we're talking through the slate, that I'm probably going to end up with quite a bit of Zebby Matthews. So looks like he might be my most important tonight, very cheap. And I'm finding myself kind of wanting that salary savings with some of these big bats that we're talking about. So Zebby Matthews going to be well over the field on him. Home run call, Mangone. Who's going deep tonight?
We'll take the lead off, right? Lead off Gunnar Henderson bomb. I think he's hitting lead off, right? Is he not?
Yeah,
No,
he is.
Oh, he is. Okay, perfect. Yeah. I didn't know if it was him or Adley, but Gunnar, we'll take the lead off bomb. Hopefully he goes yard for us. So Gunnar Henderson will be my guy.
I will go with Mr. Trevor Larnach and do some damage to Jack Kochanowicz and that Angels bullpen. Finally, Mangone, your favorite hitter overall on the slate.
All right, favorite hitter. I know most people will think, oh, it's got to be a Dodger. It's got to be Ohtani. We're not going with Ohtani. We're going with a righty, and it's going to be Steve Boynton's going to be in the chat posting the Oscar the Grouch, Teoscar Hernandez. He will be my play of the day.
There we go. And I will go with Ellie De La Cruz coming off a nice game yesterday. I think he has another one today against Fat Lance Lynn. That'll do it for this show. I believe baseball show is off tomorrow with football in store. We will, of course, be back on Friday for premium members on the Friday Night Fireworks Show. And fun show today. Thanks for watching, everybody. Good luck in all your lineups. The like button on your way out. For Sweet Travis Mangone, I'm DC. We're out of here.